For years, Star Wars Battlefront 2 Resurrection was just a DLC that ended Iden Versio's story. Now, it's an all-time peak player count. The past week has been a whirlwind for Star Wars Battlefront, with so much happening between player counts, developers responding, the community feeling, more attention directed to Battlefront Kyber, and where does it leave us with a Battlefront 3? We have a lot to talk about in today's video, so let's talk about it. First of all, it's just been incredible to see people return to Battlefront 2 and see the state in which DICE left the game in. Despite that horrific launch, the live Battlefront team really did turn it around to a point where it's like, man, it was primed as a perfect foundation to continue with content, but they moved to Battlefield 2042, and we all know that was definitely the right call, right? Right? Let's start with the player count, which by the way continues to rise, at least on Steam. Battlefront 2 came to Steam way after launch, and as a result I would assume that Steam actually accounts for the smallest portion of Battlefront players. So it had a peak count of 10,325 before this past week. It's now hit a Steam peak player count of 18,523, which for a game that ended support 5 years ago in May 2020 is just mental. We only have official data from Steam, however some content creators have reported some wider numbers from what I would understand to be sources of potential contacts at EA maybe. As a True stated the game peaked about 300,000 across all platforms, and Battlefront Updates also stated a player count of 329,000. Now it's up to you whether you want to believe them or not. Personally, I believe them because A, WoW July, but also because of where these games have ranked in terms of bestsellers on PlayStation and on Xbox. It's the 6th bestseller on PS4, 18th overall on PS5, which has no native PS5 version. Not to mention, you have the expanded player base of the previous console generation. I don't think 300,000 players is that far-fetched. With those player counts though, and all this excitement and talk, multiple key figures from the Star Wars Battlefront 2 team had some thoughts to share. And it was just like old times, Rex. Bear in mind that much of that team is now elsewhere at different studios doing different things, but it was nice as someone who followed that team religiously for what felt like years, the CT when, all those updates, Dennis speaking at EA Play and announcing Dooku and Grievous, and man, it was so sick. But we do have some interesting responses here. The first to really speak up was Matt Helge, a former director, and he had this to say, quote, "Hear me out, no Battlefront 3 right now, but Battlefront remaster for whatever future console is arriving in 2027-2028. Dev time is around 2 to 3 years, once that is a success, then start work on 3. This would be a 5 to 6 year plan, but it's far more likely to be a success," end quote. He also said something that piqued a lot of interest, quote, "Me and having heard around my group of ex-colleagues, we want to get the band back together," end quote. Some interesting stuff there that I do have some thoughts on, but a familiar face also popped up. Dennis, the former creative director, re-emerged after 2 years off Twitter, saying, quote, "I felt a great disturbance in the force," end quote. But in a reply to someone's tweet talking about Matt's plan for Battlefront 3 and a 2 remaster, he said, quote, "I love Matt, but I disagree with his plan," end quote. We also saw Ben Walk, Christian Johansson and Harvey Newman, the former lead animator, all speak and reminisce about the franchise. Going back to Dennis's comments, I agree. I personally don't like Matt's plan. For me, Battlefront 2 has ran its course. And yeah, sure, I'm armchair Devin here, but I don't think that crossplay or quality of life additions do much to stimulate the desire to play a brand new Battlefront game. We want that new experience with new heroes on new maps. I get the logic in terms of funding and timing, but I think go straight for the throat with a new Battlefront. That's what personally I would want, especially with the introduction of Kyber on PC, which I know is not on console, but I think Battlefront 3 would be the play. We've played this game for the best part of 7 years now, and even with those additions and on a new console generation, it's not something that I think is going to move the boat in the way that a Battlefront 3 and it taking longer would. One thing that I do feel is that if a team who has worked on Battlefront in the past is coming back to do it, it has to be the live team on Battlefront 2. If a Battlefront 3 existed and it was built like Battlefront 2's launch, it would not meet expectations. I'm not even talking about the ridiculous pride and accomplishment nonsense or loot boxes. I'm talking about the framework of the game itself. There was also prominent figures in Battlefront and the wider Star Wars universe itself that came out and declared support for a new one to be made. From Janina, who plays Iden Versio, Anthony Scordi, who plays Admiral Garrick Versio, DJ Ramini, who plays Del, and Mohanid Ben Amor, who plays Wilman in Andor, which is pretty cool. I always think it's nice to see a fan be in the Star Wars universe and continue to be a fan. What's been very sick though is just how many people who clocked off at launch, which is understandable, returned to Battlefront 2 and they're like, ah yeah, this is mint. From large creators playing for the first time, it was just this whirlwind of excitement for Star Wars Battlefront. It was incredible just seeing clips plastered all over social media again, as if the game was launching for the very first time. And to be honest, just how nice it was that for once, as a Star Wars community, to be united and excited about something than divided and aggressive and toxic. How much better is it when we're all just enjoying and excited about things, you know? Let me tell you though, as someone who has played since launch and constantly revisited the game, it never leaves you. Let's go! Fuck him up. Ah, let's go! Ah! No! That was sick, mate. But the big question is, where does that actually leave us? Despite the surge in player counts, the excitement, Battlefront 3 comments being plastered everywhere, developer comments and interest, prominent figures speaking out, is Battlefront 3 possible? The truth is, nobody really knows, but we can do some speculating. I've been getting this growing feeling from EA that they want to go in-house. I'm not sure they want to keep going with that Disney license. And listen, I could be completely wrong. This is pure speculation. But the Jedi series is coming to the end with its trilogy. After 2042, they doubled down on Battlefield, enlisting more studios than ever to help build the next one. And I would assume it has bold live service plans. They cancelled the in-development Mandalorian game at Respawn. And I just don't know how much desire there would be for a brand new Battlefront game from them, given how fierce and competitive that multiplayer market is, and how much it's changed since Battlefront 2's release. It's a different landscape now. The popularity of free-to-play, battle passes, in-game stores. Battlefront 2 was almost a tipping point in moving away from loot box systems. A lot has changed. On top of that, when you have that Disney license, I can understand the risk. But man, the demand is so high. If I was being maybe a little bit optimistic, maybe they form a new studio at EA so that they can do both Battlefront and Battlefield and they can coexist. And you bring back that fragmented team that worked in the live service aspect of Battlefront. But it just feels unlikely given what feels like their current strategy. Even if that happens, right? Or after Battlefield 6 they make a new Battlefront. Given current video game timelines, you're probably talking 2030, 2031 at the earliest, and the excitement will always be there for a new Battlefront, but man, let's just hope the world hasn't burned down by then. So then, I'm asking myself the question, who else? Who else can make a Battlefront game? Because DICE always seem the perfect fit for a Battlefront game. What other studio out there do I trust for a new Battlefront game? It's funny because when I look around, there are a lot of talented studios out there, but the only other studio that springs to mind are the former DICE devs at Embark Studios, who produced the incredible The Finals, and Ark Raiders is shaping up to be excellent as well. I just don't know. The thing is, even now in 2025 though, in such a contested, crowded PvP market, there isn't anything like Battlefront. It's so unique. What other game rewards you is that as you earn score, you can place these sick reinforcements or your favourite heroes that allows you to recreate the most brilliant duels in the most iconic locations. Battlefront has always been a series about multiplayer storytelling. Moments of 1v4 in Hero Showdown, taking down your first AT-AT, a final stand of a chain gun. That's why people love the Clone Wars aspect of it, because it has that whole embodiment of Together Brothers and the final stands, and that's what makes it so sick. I guarantee you, you ask any Battlefront player about the game, and they'll have so many stories to tell of memorable moments, both good and bad in terms of what they faced. So yeah, sure, whilst the multiplayer market is so crowded, this has its own slot. If a new Battlefront is to happen, they have to avoid the mistakes of a poor launch. In 2025 and onwards in video games, first impressions matter more than ever. If a game launches poorly, it is irredeemable to many. I want to do a whole other video in detail about what I would want from a new Battlefront game, but I look at the potential, man. Since Battlefront ended support, we have had 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, 3.5 if you count the Book of Boba Fett, the end of Clone Wars, the Siege of Mandalore, a season of Ahsoka, 3 animated tale series, Acolyte, 2 seasons of Andor, Skeleton Crew, not to mention the additions of Cal, Merrin, the second and ninth sister, Dagon, Kyber, ND5. So many opportunities for modes, maps, reinforcements. And look, I hate talking about video game monetization because it flat out stinks most of the time, but it is necessary for live service, and I think that Battlefront lends itself well to battle passes with cosmetics, emotes, and the kind of stuff that goes into it. I would definitely hope that there'd be free ones to earn as well with progression, and Battlefront really is one of the last premium offerings to offer a full package of a campaign and multiplayer together. There is so much potential in a new Star Wars Battlefront that I think, even if it's not EA, someone has to be willing to take a shot at it. One thing I talk about a lot is synergy when it comes to live service games. I've said for a while before Marvel Rivals that Marvel needed a successful one, so that when I go and watch the Fantastic Four, I can go home and play some Fantastic Four content. Star Wars is the same. Next year when I go and see the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, though for God's sake please change that name, it is so bad and just boring, I can come home and I can boot up a game with Mandalorian content, whether that's a map from the film, Mando as a character, a game mode focused around the events of the film. When the Maul show launches, cosmetics for Maul. Synergy is so important and useful, and that's how you can make a Battlefront work. And they did it, by the way, in Battlefront 2, The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Regardless of how you feel about those films, they had good content to build upon it. Could you imagine that when this final act of Filoni's Mandoverse, if you like, of Ahsoka, Mando, and Ezra up against Thrawn, it has some kind of in-game event? And that excites me. I think about how the Clone Wars has grown in popularity over the years, and maps like Umbara, Ryloth, and Coruscant all went untouched. Even more so with Kyber, which I'm going to touch on in a minute. The additions of playable Rex, Cody, Aqua, and Magna droids go so far to enhancing that immersion even further. God, I just want it so bad. Man, imagine a new Clone Wars campaign too. And who knows what will happen in the future? Shows and movies may delve more into the High Republic and the Old Republic, and that'd be sick for Battlefront. I think the biggest takeaway is that the message has been sent. Whether it's received is another thing, but I think it's a message more than Battlefront 3. I think it's the desire for a good Star Wars multiplayer game. I've said since its release that Helldivers 2 reminds me so strongly of Galactic Conquest from Battlefront 2 2005. Could you imagine a game like that set in the Clone Wars or even the Old Republic? How sick that would be. Point is, it's the desire not just for Battlefront, but good Star Wars games. One final thing that's made me very happy is the attention that this Battlefront Resurgence has also made its way to Kyber. For those that are unaware, Kyber is a custom server platform for Battlefront 2 that has full mod support and integration. So this is basically like Battlefront 2.5, like a Battlefront Director's Cut if you will. Official servers where you're playing as Cal Kestis, Merrin, Django, Ahsoka, Rex, you played as Magna Guards, Aqua Droids, Probe Droids, new Star Cards. It is genuinely so impressive. It's still in its playtesting, but yeah, whilst the community has shown the demand and support for Battlefront 3, the Kyber community and mod teams have shown a different light on what passion can do in helping keep Battlefront going in a different manner. I will not stop championing the work that these people are doing, as I just appreciate it a lot as a Battlefront fan. It's such an ambitious project. It is due to release for everyone on PC later this year. You can still sign up for the playtest on the website, or if you gift on their Patreon, get immediate access. I just love how this resurgence has also led to more visibility for these teams. I did do a separate video on it as well, which if you want to find out more information, I'll leave that linked in the description. And That is the aftermath of the Battlefront resurgence. The point is, we just don't really know what to expect. There's been no word, no mumblings, but man, it's showcase season now with Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase. Could you imagine an announcement? That would be insane. But now, I really want to hear your thoughts. Do you expect a Battlefront 3? If not DICE, then who? And do you agree with Matt's plan of a remaster for Battlefront 2 to tide us over for a Battlefront 3? I would love to hear any thoughts you got on this. One like equals one new hope for a Battlefront 3, and if you're into Star Wars games, you found the right place. News, reviews, guide streams, I've got you covered. Regardless, all socials are linked down below. I hope you have a terrific day. Play games, get gains, and I will catch you in the next one.